Hey everybody, this is part 2 of my beautiful vase video. I want to show you, this is a go-to technique for me to make backgrounds and floors, and I wanted to show you how when you make the difference between a floor and a wall, how to make that wall look like wallpaper. So to begin with, I'm just going to very lightly blend some antique linen distress ink up to a masked line. So I just have some post-it tape here, and I'm using my Misty grid paper to make sure that that tape line is straight, because it should not surprise you to know that I learned that the hard way. If you don't have a little grid that you can line your cardstock and your tape up on, then you get a funhouse floor that is slanted at an angle. And unless you're making a Halloween card, probably not what you want. Now, even though antique linen ink is a very pale ink, I still brush a little bit off before doing the paler portion. And whenever I'm doing a wall where it meets a floor, I shade the actual line a little bit darker. This really adds some realism and makes it look like a wall meeting a floor. I do this on the other side as well. So where the floor would meet the wall is also going to have a little extra shading, and that just recesses what is essentially a corner into the background and makes it look more dimensional. Now that's pretty just like it is. I could just put those vases on there and call it done, but I can't do that. It's just not in my personality. So I'm going to remask the top portion. So I'll just, this time I don't have to worry about the grid. I can just line it up on the ink line because I know that's straight. And then I'm just using another piece of paper to mask off the top because I'm using one of the larger brushes here. So the odds that I'm going to get a little ink above the line are pretty high. And this time you can see the difference when I'm not brushing my ink off before ink blending, how much darker it is. So it is a pale ink, but at full strength, it really adds quite a bit of color. So when you're doing the lighter one, just brush that ink off before you start blending 1 or 2 times to get that paler color. So here's where I'm going back and darkening the line. Again, just right up against the tape line, add just a little bit more color, and you'll see how much that really makes that corner pop. Now I'm grabbing a sea sponge, and you can do anything with texture, really. I like the random texture of a sea sponge. And it's very, very subtle. So I'm just going to pick up a little extra ink and tap it onto the carpet portion. This just gives it a little bit of texture so it's not completely flat. Because if you want it to look like carpet, it needs to have a little texture. But a texture that's too regular is going to look kind of weird. So I like the irregular, randomized texture of a sea sponge. So I'll just add this. I know it's hard to see on camera, but I will show it to you close up and you'll see the very subtle texture that you get. Other ideas for this would just be like if you have a cleaning cloth, like a microfiber cloth, you could put that on your ink pad and put it on here. Any number of things will add texture to your ink. I just like this one. Okay, so the reveal is always fun. Let me show you what that looks like. See how you have just a little bit of randomized texture on the bottom. Just makes it look more natural. And as distress ink dries, this will get a little bit more prominent, the texture will. So now what I'm going to do is mask off. I have some thicker post-it tape. I'm going to mask off the carpet. Just again, right at that line. I know that's straight, so when I go to pull it up, my tape pulls off. So beware of that. But I am going to cut one edge of the tape, and I'm going to line that up on the right edge of the cardstock this time because I want to put this into my Misty. and I need it to go right into that corner. So this time I'll be a little bit more careful not to pull my tape off. When you're putting Post-it tape on ink that's still a little bit wet, sometimes that can happen. So you can either just wait for it to dry or just be careful pulling it up. So now I will just pop this into my MISTI, and I have that edge that I can use because I cut the tape off that one side. So you can position it in the middle if you want. You can do whatever you want. I'm using a cling stamp, so I do need to take the black foam out of the MISTI. So I will line that up on the grid that's just in the base, and I can use that same masking tape to hold it in place. Now, this entire creation is going to be a tone-on-tone creation. So I'm just using a single ink color, and I'm using this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stamp. It looks like wallpaper to me. It looks like some kind of fancy French wallpaper. So I thought it would be perfect for this. Now you have a couple options here. You can make it kind of shabby and just randomly put ink and not show the full design. So you can sort of see what that would look like here. But I'm actually going to, I want to see a little bit more of the design, but I am pulling some ink off with the C sponge because I don't want it really, really dark. So I'll stamp it a few times until you can really see things like the hummingbird and some of the foliage. But I am going to remove some of that ink so it's not super dark. So I'll apply some ink again. And distress ink naturally gives you a sort of distressed look. So that happens. But I do want to be able to see some of those details. And I can see where some areas are a little bit lighter than others. So I'll just add a little bit more ink and then stamp those areas again. So like just that one little area of foliage, I'll add a little bit more to that. But I don't want it super solid. So if you do want it super solid, one, I would use a regular stamping ink. That VersaFine Clear would be great. Any dye ink. Or just stamp the distress ink enough times that you're going to see something really solid. Now make sure you put enough pressure up to the line where the wallpaper meets the floor so that it doesn't give you a little void. But when I pull that away, you can see that this looks like a beautiful living room with wallpaper meeting some lightly textured carpet. It's a color that's complementary to the vases that I showed you in the last video, which I will link on screen. And it just makes a beautiful card. So head over to my blog for more information. And thanks so much for watching.